Embassy of the Dead, Chapter 6. What are you supposed to do with a severed finger? As Mum pulled up at the end of the lane that led to the farm, Jake started to panic. He still hadn't asked her about the finger. What are you supposed to do with a severed finger? A severed finger wasn't the sort of thing you could put in the rubbish. It wasn't the sort of thing you could keep either. It would probably need to be buried. Maybe the person who the finger belonged to was still alive. Unsurprisingly, it wasn't a problem Jake had experienced before. It was the sort of serious problem that needed grown-up advice, the sort of problem that needed Mum. He imagined turning to Mum and saying, "I have in my possession a severed human finger." It sounded like the first sentence in a very long conversation that would probably end with him being accused of murder and thrown in prison. The subject needed to be approached with caution. He stepped out of the car and took a deep breath. "Mum," he said, "do you believe in ghosts?" "Ghosts? No, don't be daft." Now what? Jake tried again, but the phrase, "I have in my possession a severed human finger," caught in his throat. Mum looked at him quizzically. "Are you all right, Jake?" He nodded. It was like he had lost the power of speech completely. Mum checked her watch. "I have got to go. Have a nice time on your trip. Be careful. Say hi to Dad." She smiled. "I love you." Jake forced a smile back and waved as she drove off, all hope of a solution disappearing with her. Now he just had Dad to help with the finger situation. Things looked bleak. He turned round. Dad's bungalow looked bleak too. He pushed open the unpainted front door. Everything about Dad's place was depressing. Well, it had the important things, namely a sofa and a TV, but there were none of the pointless things that adults usually put in houses, like vases and pictures. Stuff like that. Stuff that his Mum's house was full of. Maybe all that pointless stuff Mum and Dad had collected together added up to something, like a place needs a certain number of photographs or calendars or tea towels for it to qualify as a proper home. Even Dad's carpet was depressing, thought Jake as he let himself in. He couldn't quite put his finger on what could possibly make a carpet depressing, but somehow his Dad's carpet managed it. At least Dad was keeping the place fairly clean, and he didn't make Jake eat any vegetables. Dinner was already on the table as Jake walked through to the kitchen. Sausage, beans, and fried bread. "Don't tell Mum about the fried bread, okay?" said Dad, smiling as he ushered Jake to the table. He had those lines you get round your eyes when you smile loads. Halfway through eating his dinner, Jake decided to try again with his what to do about the severed finger problem. "Do you believe in ghosts, Dad?" he asked. "Ghosts?" Dad looked puzzled. They had been talking about whether an Olympic sprinter could outrun a hippo. Dad chewed thoughtfully on a bit of sausage, then swallowed. "I don't know," he said, cutting a new bit of sausage and staring at the wall for a minute, deep in thought. Finally, he looked back at Jake and said, "Did you know they kill more humans than snakes do?" Jake looked up in alarm. "Ghosts?" "No, silly," Dad smiled. "Hippos." Jake vacantly wiped the last of the bean juice from his plate with a piece of fried bread and popped it in his mouth. It was clear. He was on his own. Well, is that the kind of problem you would have if you had a severed human finger in your bag?
Well, not exactly, but I suppose if I had a severed human finger in my bag, then, I mean, like, what am I meant to do with it? Well, yes, I suppose the same thing, because I can't put it in the trash.
Rubbish.
I can't tell you guys. I'd probably just get back to them and say, what am I meant to do with this?
How are you going to get back to them?
I don't know. Try to look for them. Then that's another problem.
Well, what about just burying it in the garden?
Well, I don't think they would be very happy with that.
Do you think that this is the kind of conversation that you would expect to have with your mum and dad? But with your
No.
mum, it would be, I love you, I'm going to work.
No,
and with your
definitely
dad, it would be, hey, let's talk about snakes and hippos.
No.
No, okay.